Today we're going to have a chat about the top 3 ways we recommend to reduce risk when buying property. Now, this is going to apply to absolutely any property purchase you do, whether it's an investment, whether it's a primary place of residence, whether it's a new build, a renovation flip, a development, anything that you want to be doing with property needs to have these 3 steps included. So, to start with, we're going to talk about due diligence. Now, due diligence or research, analysis, feasibility, whatever you want to call it, is when you are thinking of buying a property and you are doing the math, basically. This is when we want to be unemotional. This is when we want to be looking at it from a very analytical perspective. It's where we want to be calculating all of the costs that are going to be included from start to finish. Now, obviously, for a simple first home purchase, this could be a fairly basic calculation. For a development or a subdivision, it's going to be a very, very complex calculation, including many, many different people with expertise that are going to need to be brought in to answer those questions for you. But the big thing is that you follow the same step every time, which is that you start from your closing costs to purchase the property, and then you work your way through absolutely every step that's required for you to get that property to your exit strategy. It's also when you make a plan for what strategy you're going to be using. We always recommend approaching every property with a flexible idea so that you've got many strategies you might be able to use. And then, your due diligence, analysis, or research is going to be helping you to plan out exactly what you're going to do, how long it's going to take you, and how much it's going to cost. If you do this correctly, you will know exactly what your outcome will be before you put the offer down. And that will give you a lot more power when it comes to placing your offer and a lot more certainty with what your outcome is going to be. Okay, number 2 is going to be value addition. Now, value addition, I would say, is not just something that we recommend, it's something that we insist upon if you're going to do safe, low-risk investing. Certainly, there are other ways to do investing in property. Speculation is another one. It's not something that we like to do very often. Value addition is the safest way to ensure that you have a positive outcome. Now, if you're buying a property, even if you're building a new property, if you're doing a renovation or a flip, if you're building a granny flat or you're doing a subdivision, all of those are value add strategies. And what they do is they give you a very set amount of increased equity by carrying out a very set amount of tasks. So if we're talking about a subdivision, that is going to be getting a block, splitting it in half, let's say, or in 3s or 4s or more, and then you're aiming to have a higher value at the end than you started with to begin with. Now, if you've done your first step correctly, you'll know exactly how much more value you'll have when you're finished, and that is how you justify which value add strategy to use. The integral part about this is costing. Again, number 1, you need to make sure that whatever strategy you are using to do a value add is being costed and estimated or quoted correctly before you begin. But if that's done correctly, you should have a very clear roadmap of what you can do to your property to instantly increase the equity as soon as you've completed your plan. Okay, and number 3. Number 3 is going to be timing and exit strategies. So timing and exit strategies is something that isn't always talked about. It's sometimes forced upon clients who are seeking professional help. Sometimes there are fixed timeframes that you have to keep to in order to qualify for the strategy that might be being sold. Whatever the case may be, timing is something that a lot of people don't like to be flexible with. The amount of clients that we get that tell us that they want to be in and out within a certain amount of time is almost innumerable. What we really want to recommend to reduce risk is that you have flexibility and that you have multiple exit strategies at multiple different times. So obviously, everyone wants to be in and out of a subdivision, a development, a renovation, and a flip especially, or even their first home or build. They want to be in and out in a set time period. But what happens if something goes wrong? The unknown or the unexpected or the something that you can't prepare for is the last risk factor that we have to hedge against. And the way that we hedge against that is by having multiple exit strategies. So you have multiple timeframes that you can stick to. Ideally, a client is going to be going into let's say a subdivision as a value add strategy. They'll be in and out within 9 to 12 months. If we're including a build, that might be 12 to 18 months, depending on their finances. And so we're looking at a very strict time frame that we might want to look to sell. But let's say we complete that subdivision, we complete that build, and that client is now left with, let's say for an example, 3 houses. Ideally, we've got positive cash flow. We've added value, so there's equity there. And now it all comes down to the timing. If the market's gone down significantly, or there might be a financial crisis, or there might be some type of unexpected issue that's occurred during the time frame that they've been completing their strategy. Flexibility of options will mean that they don't just have to sell as soon as those products are created. They can, let's say, have a second strategy, which would be a longer-term hold. That long-term hold will be positively geared, and they'll lose absolutely no money by changing their plan midway. Now, that flexibility and adaptability is the last and probably one of the most crucial ways that you can ensure that you are doing low-risk investing. If you can exit immediately after your value-added strategy is completed, or in a year's time, or in 5 years' time, and all of those options are profitable, then you really won't be having to worry about the market as much as the others who have effectively thrown their dart and hoping it hits the center of the target in 12 months' time, whereas you will have multiple targets and multiple darts, and it doesn't matter what the market does, you will have a response and a way to come out on top.